Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
How you guys doing? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Wonderful. Sounds good. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight we have an amazing roundtable, and I know we're going to have some pretty amazing and real conversations. Please excuse my voice, but my sinuses and allergies have been pretty bad lately with all the crazy dust in the air. But I know we're going to have a lot of fun. So I want to say thank you to Colonel Janeris and Leslie and Command Chief Blazer. Please excuse me if I'm not saying your last name correctly.
Oh, it's good.
Oh, perfect. And Jennifer, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. I want to tell the audience who you guys are, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of time to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you. But I thought that it was very important that we needed to bring leadership into a roundtable to talk to us a little bit more about basic training, what it is, what we need to know, who's behind the mission, and mainly to introduce the leadership team and their families. This is a team effort, and we're always supporting our airmen. So it is a great idea to have you guys and share a little bit more with us. So I am going to leave you now with a few seconds. That way you can introduce yourselves, and then we can talk a little bit more. We have a lot of great feedback. And last time we had a round table, and Colonel Janeris was one of our guest speakers. After we finished the round table, we got a lot of feedback from spouses that said, hey, bring him back. We want to ask questions. We want to learn about basic training. And that's the reason why we're here. And, it was a great idea. So, Colonel, please, you can start and let us know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Bernice, thanks. That's actually not the way Leslie told it. She said I screwed up so bad. She said I was getting recycled, that I had to do this all over again. So, yeah, honored to be with you here. And for the folks that are on the outstations, we're here at the headquarters for the 37 Training Wing, and we'll get an opportunity to dive into the basic training. But one thing I'd like to highlight, though, is the continued partnerships in the local area, but also that basic training is just one part of a larger wing. And in many respects, we're not only the gateway to the Air Force, but we're the gateway to the Americas because of the partnerships we've got around the world. So, again, honored to be here with you, Jason Janeris, 37 Training Wing Commander. More importantly, married to this lady right here. So I was the rookie warm-up act the first time. You guys got the pros this time around. So Air Force family, grew up around the military. My dad did active duty time during Vietnam, and then settled in the New England area and did almost 30 years in the Guard as well. So I've got that background, and Leslie and she and I met at Florida State going through ROTC. And you know the joke that I told last time, right? One of us was a distinguished graduate, and it's not this guy, right? So, but I love to not only be married to my best friend, but somebody that I can come home and throw all the military jargon at her, and she's able to understand really and relate. And that's why she's so special, along with Jen up here, to be able to tell their stories, not only as spouses, but as partners in this mission set. So that's all for me right now, and I'll turn it over to Les to give a little bit more about family dynamics and a little bit about our background as well.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm Leslie Janeris, and been a military spouse for 25 years. As Jason mentioned, I was also active duty. I served for 8 years. We have 7 kiddos, ranging in age from 7. Our little guy just turned 7 this month, and then our oldest is 19. And so we've got a slew of kiddos in there, and have loved this lifestyle that the military provides. I grew up military, so this is what I know. And so to think at some point it's going to have to end makes me very sad. But right now it's not. And we are heading out actually in 2 weeks. We are going to the DC area, and we'll be leaving this wing that we have grown to love so much. And we're just looking forward to tonight. So thank you, Berenice, for having us and giving us this opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here. And, we're going to miss you a lot. And you too, Colonel. But, Leslie's so amazing.
I'm used to it, Bernice. I'm used to it. Keep it real.
I know that I'll have Jennifer for a little bit longer, right?
Yes.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, you first. After you, sir.
Okay.
All right, fantastic. So yeah, common theme. So I was actually raised by my grandparents. My grandfather was a Marine during the Korean War. And then I will say is one of us had a full ride scholarship in high school to a D1 school. And then the other one barely graduated high school, and that was this guy. So yeah, I have been amazingly blessed to have my wife by my side through this whole journey. And we have 2 kids, and that is plenty. That is just plenty. So yeah, but yeah, Jordan and Natalie are both 17 and 20, and it's been quite an experience to have kids really throughout our whole career, our time in the Air Force, and we'd be happy to talk about that a little bit more. We were high school sweethearts, and you know, she came to that same parade field that I see so many families prior to COVID, that we really look forward to celebrating those moments together. But you know, one thing I'd say is just it's an extreme honor to serve this team, this mission, because what happens here is truly special in this wing, where civilians are transformed into, you know, America's sword and shield as airmen. But we'll be happy to talk about that more. So over to you, Mom.
Hi, I'm Jen Blazer, and I have been a military spouse for, 22 years now? 21, yeah. Almost 22, pushing it.
So you can forget, I can't.
I did not grow up military, had not really any military experience in our family, so it was definitely a transition and a culture shock for me. When we got married, talking about the parade field, I remember standing there and him trying to explain ahead of time where he's going to be, and I just saw 5,000 people that looked like him, and I didn't know what to do. So he ended up finding me. It was overwhelming, but it's been a great experience. This wing, like they said, is amazing. We love family, and we want to be here to make everyone's experience a little bit better. So thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Chief. You know, one of the, you guys are addressing some amazing points, even just with your introduction. So I know that the conversation is going to get even better. And Jennifer, you mentioned that you were brand new to all of this in the military. I was the same way. Not only that, I'm an immigrant, so I had no clue, not only the culture, but the military and so many of those things. And we have so many spouses that are in the same situation, that they're wondering, what is this all about? And we're going to start working more into detail so we can talk a little bit more. But this question is going to be for the Colonel and the Chief. We as spouses, and even the civilian society out there, when we see the military, even basic training, we are used to what we see on the movies. We are used to what we see on TV, or we're used to what others are telling us. What is it about basic military training that you think the spouses, significant others, fiancés, and even parents should know about? Do you think that there's too much of misinformation what a BMT is to what we get to see on TV, for example?
Yeah, so Bernice, I'll just give you a big picture, and then I'll let Chief talk about it a little more from a tactical perspective and his thoughts, especially wearing those stripes, right? Because that's the common bond. Everyone that's ever been an enlisted airman has come through these gateways, and it's a pretty phenomenal story. And so we have the privilege of taking roughly 40,000 men and women from all over the globe, because a lot of them are dependents that'll even come from overseas, and transforming them into American airmen. And it is not only the greatest honor, but it's also one of the most unique things to see that physical transformation and mental transformation really over just a 2-month period of time. So that is a credit really to the institution, but particularly to our military training instructors and what they're able to do. So if you think about that for a second, that pre-COVID, we're taking roughly 800 men and women, really ripping them out of their respective hometowns, and they're getting dropped off here at the gateway of the Air Force in a white bus, right? There's nothing sexy about that kind of Hollywood scene, filled with all kinds of anxiety, fear, doubts in their mind. So it's this dichotomy of, I'm really excited about this venture, but do I have what it takes to earn the right to be an American airman? So we see that literally every week play out, and it is a unique experience, certainly, but on the ground level, that's what it is. It's the idea that we're taking these young men and women, and we're not only transforming them into American airmen, but then you play a lot of different roles to them while they're here. We're not just military training instructors, we're taking that hat off, right? We're even as commanders, we're walking alongside them. And I tell this story a lot, Bernice, that sometimes this is life plan A through Z for these individuals. This is it. They have burned the ships. This is their shot. A lot of them are running from something, or they've got baggage, or they have no desire to return to their hometown. And so we are their new family, right? Not just on a shiny trophy somewhere or a sticker, a bumper sticker, but this has literally become their instant family. And you see that play out even in these kind of times, or perhaps more so in these times where we've got to rally together, between the unrest and the issues we're facing from the global pandemic. It actually forces you to become closer, right, in that joint war fighting mentality. And so that's really the goal of us and what we do here is we motivate, train, and inspire. And that's not an accident that those letters stand for MTI. And that's really the core of what we try and do. And again, I'll let Chief talk to you a little bit about the tactile and kind of the mission sets that we're seeing here from the 37 Training Wing.
Yeah, so certainly a great question. And what I would say is there's some things you'll see in the movies where there's probably somebody that raises their voice here from time to time. That probably happens. There's probably something where you'll see formations. But a lot of things that I think people don't see is nobody comes to us as a blank slate. We are certainly not trying to brainwash anybody here. And what we're actually trying to do is cultivate the skills, the talents, the abilities that they already have so they can reach their maximum potential. That's ultimately what our goal is here. And we do that through discipline. We do that through enforcing our values of integrity, service, and excellence. And we do that really to learn to operate as a team. Because what happens when you join this family is the common bond, the non-negotiable, is we want to have an environment of dignity and respect for each other. And when they become airmen, that they are our peers, because we are all airmen in this together. Now, you might be a wing commander, you might be a command chief, and you might have different responsibilities. But the beauty about business in the military is all of our positions are temporary. We will literally hand all of our roles to the next generation, and we take it very, very seriously. And I think that's something the movie never entail that. But that future generation, when we're sitting on a porch one day and we're cheering from the sidelines, we'll know that everything we gave to them is going to be contributed to whether they'll be successful or not. And then we take a very higher interest in making sure they have everything they need to continue to fight and win. Those are the things I think that the movies tend to look past, because just because you put on a uniform doesn't mean you stop being a human being. And we actually we don't want to take that away from anybody at all. And I really love and value everything from a 17-year-old who came here on a waiver to someone who's 39 and has already won at life and just wants to serve their country. There's such a beauty about that and coming together, and really I would tell you that's what makes it so special.
That's wonderful, and that is that's another thing that we also have to portray all the time. It is because an amazing team of leadership that is developing this future airman, someone that one day is going to take your place, someone that one day is going to probably be the next Chief of Staff of the Air Force or the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. You guys take these young kiddos from day one. You give them the opportunity, you give them the platform, not only to become an amazing airman and serve their country, but also to develop them to be amazing human beings, so that when they're out of the military, they will continue the same discipline, and now they have additional skills. So that is just one of the beautiful things of serving in the military, and more when it is an airman. I mean, I cannot be biased, but I'm an Air Force spouse, so it's kind of hard not to get emotional about it. But the next question I have is for Leslie and Jennifer. Now that we heard what is an airman, what is the responsibilities, the beauty of being an airman, what it means to you to actually be married to an airman, and mainly what it was when you were a brand new spouse and you had no clue what this was all about.
So I'm going to let Jen take that one, because I came in, we married, and both commissioned into the Air Force. And so I can tell you my experience as a spouse after I was in the military, but I would love for Jen to take that one because that experience of feeling it as a brand new spouse, I didn't have. So, over to you.
So it was a long time ago, but I will tell you that becoming a new military spouse was very overwhelming in the beginning. Just the acronyms alone, I didn't understand what anything meant. I had to write it down, like have little cheat sheets, right? And some of it took me years to figure out. But initially, I wasn't very involved. I think it was intimidating and overwhelming for me in the beginning. So I focused on our family and our friends. And it wasn't until we were probably in 7 or 8 years before I even heard about the Key Spouse program and what it was, and that there were resources out there to help with things that we needed help with that I didn't know about. So it was a little bit longer transition. I didn't do it overnight, but I will say that the more involved I became, the more I fell in love with the programs, that the Key Spouse program and programs like yours, right? There's all these resources out there for us, and connecting them with families has become something that's really important to us. So,
that is, you know, go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, so she's underselling the experiences she had to go through. So
some of it was wonderful and amazing, and some of it made me want to quit and burn the state down. So yeah, we got our experiences, but I will tell you that, you know, what got us through that was actually our tribe. Literally, we went through experiences that could have crushed our family, and we had a line of people at our front door with dinner and with offering to babysit, and it saved us, right? Like, it helped us get through something that was just hard or painful, and it made it easier, right? And just having somebody there, even if they couldn't fix it, right? Just having that team there knowing, hey, we're just going to sit here with you. So the experience I've had has been amazing as a spouse, but he's right. Like, it's not always easy, right? You have to figure it out. A lot of times when you restart somewhere, you don't have a support system. You're relying on phone calls to friends and, you know, maybe trying to meet new people, and you feel, I always feel, so I'm kind of really high energy anyways, and I always feel like I'm speed dating with friends when I go, hi, how are you? When you're interested, okay, next, what are you, you know? So I felt like I went through that a lot in the beginning, but I also feel like it made me resilient in a way where it just opened me up to a lot of new experiences. I'm very grateful for it.
yeah. I would just add to, like, the first base we ever had was Beale Air Force Base, California. When I thought California, and I sold it to her as, because we're both.
Oh, he's Florida. Like, we're going to California. It's going to be beaches.
Yeah, so we're from Florida, but Northern California is not what we thought it would be.
Call it Oregon.
Yeah. So, but either way, we were out there. If you think about what she had to go through, right? So I was in tech training after BMT. That was 6 months long. So by the time we got to our first base, we were separated in that period of time. And then at the first duty station, she came out. I got the house. We didn't have furniture. We didn't have any of that stuff. I thought the Air Force was going to provide all that. And then, you know, I got a loan. I did as fast as I can to get couches, beds, and that's really where I would say the Air Force family starts showing up, because people will start to give you their things, whether they just were trying to get rid of it or not. I was very appreciative of it at the time, because we didn't really have much. But for her, I was also, one thing I think is important for context is I work night shift. I work shift work. I was home at various hours. It was also challenging too, because you know, we had our son was born that first year after that too. So, you know, raising a small child in a community where you don't have a lot of roots, I think it's certainly tough from the beginning. But as she said, you know, my team at work, we all kind of rallied as a tribe.
Yes. You know, one of the right now that you're addressing all those things, Chief, is so good that we're talking about that. You know, when we talk to the spouses, and I mean, Leslie and Jen, you guys get to talk to them. When before COVID-19, it was every Thursday. We get to talk to them when they come to us and look for a mentor. But we're talking to a brand new spouse or a fiance, not just they're about to get married or they just got married and they're getting to know each other and they're working into the marriage lifestyle. Now we're throwing the military on top of it, you know, and even that is challenging by itself. So one of the things that we always try to tell our mentees is that they got to rely on their community. And our community is our family, is the Key Spouse program, is your MSA and mentor, is all the resources that you have at your installation. And why not? is even the leadership spouses. We don't want anybody to feel intimidated. We want them to feel comfortable to come and ask for support. So when it comes to a sense of community, for the military spouse that is listening to us, a significant other, fiance, it is something that I want everybody to experience. They should experience what the Air Force community is all about, what we do for each other. Last time we were talking about how we are so used to when we live on base and even sometimes off base, you have a military neighbor that come and knock on your door and bring you cookies because you're moving in, and that's how they welcome you. So something that we always try to tell everybody is not just rely on your community, but also give us the opportunity to welcome you and show you what your family is all about, and we're here for you. So what kind of advice will you tell the brand new spouse that is kind of worried now that is about to leave home after basic training and they're about to move sometime soon and they don't know where they're going or what's going to happen? So, Jennifer.
Yeah, I can start with that one. I believe we were created for community. I think that's something that's within us to be a part of being and doing life together. And so when you're a military spouse or you're a part of the military, to be able to do that with other folks that actually understand where you're coming from, I think that's so critical. And so if you've got a military spouse that's there and they're military members in tech school and they're thinking, okay, what next? I'm going to assume that maybe they're connected with you all. And if they're not, that would maybe be a next step. Get a mentor through MSAN so that they can help you navigate this. One of the things I would challenge them to do is that if they know where their next duty station is, to go ahead and pick up the phone, which I think sometimes can be hard for folks, especially if you're an introvert, to take that next step and say, okay, I'm going to actually do something. I'm going to take the initiative and try to create what everyone is talking about, this great community, and reach out and call your Airmen and Family Readiness Center. And if it's in a joint environment, you call the Military and Family Readiness Center and ask to get connected to your key spouse. So if you know where you're going, you know where the unit is that your military member is going to be assigned to, you can actually do something now. You can get connected even before you arrive at that duty station. I think that's so important because, especially in the midst of what we're going through with COVID, to try to feel connected before you even arrive, I think can make all the difference in making this experience something that's wonderful and something that you can enjoy and feel confident about. So I would encourage them to reach out and try to connect either through MSAN or through their Eminent Family Readiness Center.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Jen?
So I'm trying to think about how to respond to that because I think regardless of what resources you reach out to, it's an overwhelming experience, right? It just is. There's a lot. I have all of these great ideas, but I think just keeping it simple, like Leslie said, reaching out to the people that are there for that reason, right? And not being afraid. So I think being flexible and being open to new experiences is important, right? So the life is going to be probably different from what you came from, which is intimidating, and to me, change is scary sometimes. So I think that the sooner I got connected, the easier it became just to have some support, some extra support.
Yeah, I would like to add on to that if I could. I realize it can be intimidating to reach out to the chain of command, right? To talk to the leadership team. But I want to emphasize the point. General Goldfein has really made it clear for us, and there's been a lot of emphasis the last several years in our Air Force and Key Spouse programs. But the Key Spouse is actually part of the command team, right? The family we realize we have an obligation, right, to care for that member, and really because families serve alongside us, we don't take that like we know that when there's a burden on that member, there's a burden on that family. And I would just emphasize that at any point, if they feel like they have any need for support, if they have challenges in the community with getting access to the things that, whether it's medical, childcare, any of that stuff, housing, those are all things that the command team absolutely takes it as their responsibility to help families with. And I know a lot of times they don't want to inconvenience us as leaders, but we take that pretty seriously to handle that as soon as possible to mitigate any stress on our families so they can focus on the mission together.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. And that was actually part of my next question. So it was about how the active duty member, the command, all the leaders are also part of this community that we're talking about. They are also there to support not just the airmen, but the airmen's families. So, Colonel, I'm going to ask you for those situations where we have family members feeling intimidated because if they go and ask for support or they go in and ask for anything, if they go to leadership, to the first sergeant or someone like that, even if it's just to ask for guidance for resources, some spouses feel that even asking a key spouse or even an MSA and mentor asking for support, their active duty member is going to get in trouble. So that is a stigma that we try to address, that, hey, you're asking for support, no need for feeling intimidated or feeling that someone is going to get in trouble. So I think that it would be nice if you could tell us, or you can address that to a brand new spouse that probably in a year from now, they feel they have to go to the first sergeant or the key spouse and ask for support just for resources or anything else. I want them to know that it's okay to ask for help.
Sure. And I'll just tell you from a command philosophy that the chief and I share here is it has to be caring first. So we talk about caring, professional, and ready, and what that means to be an American warfighter. But it took a little bit of time, similar to the stories that they're telling you here. You don't instantly mature. You don't have these things figured out overnight. But that's where I think the caring aspect is so important. So that's care for self, care for the family, care about the mission. But it's got to be a two-way street. And you have to set conditions for success. And that usually means something as simple as engaging, having open dialogue, having open conversations, and being approachable. I would think that's probably one of many facets of being a great leader, is being authentic and approachable to have those conversations. So it doesn't matter what the rank is, especially from the spouse avenue, they should be able to approach you with any and all concerns. Again, I can't speak for all commanders, but something that the chief said, even subtly before, there's a nuance in there that's really important that we need to pull on a little bit, and that's being able to connect as airmen and families at the same time. And the opportunity to do that and to come talk to any individual in rank is so important, because that's the climate that you want. The dignity and respect, that's the root of all success. Because the mission doesn't matter if we're not leading and caring and living out that example every single day.
That's very true. So
I think that once we've met those other spouses, if I've ever left them after a conversation and they don't feel like they can come back to me, then I probably haven't done my job, right? I feel like being approachable, being caring, we take it seriously, because it's not just something that the wing says, it's something we believe down to our core, right? These are our people. We're protective over our spouses and families because we love them, but we should always, they should always feel like they can come to us regardless of the situation, because we all are spouses regardless of rank, right? That shouldn't have anything to do with it.
That's beautiful. I love that. That was great. And, I think that puts the responsibility on all of us to make sure that when we do something, we do it right. Even if it's the leadership team or the volunteers or those that are always caring for those families and wanting to make sure that they are taken care of. So I really love that everybody takes responsibility to make sure those families are well. So my next question is going to be for the ladies again, and then I'll go to the gentlemen. So when it comes to being a military spouse, an Air Force spouse, what would you share with a new military spouse about their new journey? Now that they're about to start this lifestyle? I mean, is anything that you will say, this is my journey, and this is what identifies my journey as a military spouse?
Yeah, I would say that embrace the life. And so what I've heard in the past from some military spouses is that that's their thing. So the military member, whether it's a male or female, that's their thing. I've got my thing. And it's almost like it's two separate journeys. And so it leaves me sad sometimes, because I think you can still have your thing. If you're a military spouse and you're pursuing education, pursue education. If you're a military spouse and you're pursuing employment, although I think there's sometimes challenges, you can still have your own career as a military spouse. You definitely can. There's resources there to help you. So if it's raising the kids and that's what you're pursuing, that's your purpose, that is great too. So have that. But I would say also come alongside that military member and make this our thing and be able to go through this journey together, because if you try to do it separately, you're going to be disappointed. And you are going to have disappointments, I think, as a military spouse. It's you're going to have your highs and your lows, but we've been doing this for 25 years, and obviously there's more highs because we're still doing it. And so I think if you can focus on the positive and look at some of those challenges that come your way as potential opportunities, that you're going to do so much better in this lifestyle as a military spouse. So I would say come along that military member and make this our thing and not his or her thing.
Wonderful. Jen.
Grace upon grace upon grace upon grace for yourself, for your active duty member, right? Patience. I think that, like they said here, it's not something that you'll get overnight. But we have so many talented, amazing spouses, not just on our wing, but everywhere. We have some that are pursuing, doctorate degrees. You have some that are already working. It's just, they're amazing. So there's such a great talent pool for us to be able to build a community off of when we come together. So,
yeah, that's great. And Leslie mentioned something that we always try to tell the bride and spouses. Not because you're getting married doesn't mean that now your life is on hold because you're going to follow your spouse. I mean, your life is also is still moving forward. So make sure that you continue. It's going to be a little bit more challenging than not being a military spouse. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a lot. It all depends where you go. But that's why they need to rely on the community and the resources so that we can help them make things easier. But for the new spouses that are listening to us, significant others, fiancés, please know that it's not an expectation that when you get married to an active duty member, you stop your life and you just follow your spouse. You can continue your education. You can go, you can find a job. I mean, you can become an advocate. You can become a leader in our community. Let me tell you that because of leadership and advocates in our community, we're being able to do the things that sometimes even our own community needs support with. So we're always encouraging everybody. We need more leaders. We need more advocates. So continue, move forward, and reach your dreams. So that was just a little something that we're always telling everybody. Keep moving forward. But now the same question is going to come to Colonel Generis and the Chief. As an active duty member, I mean, you deal with families and you hear the stories and you are part of it. What is it that you think a new military spouse should know about their new journey?
So the first thing I'll tell you is, as we teach and train these young trainees and turn them into airmen, they hear the word service before self a lot. Mm-hmm. But I think over time, that message is convoluted. I think we think of service before self as screw everything else, right? I've got to work 18 hours a day. I got to wear myself into the ground. The mission is first, second, and 128th in my life, and everything else is going to be pushed to the side. That's not actually what it means. It's actually the opposite, right? I mean, you've got to have that core foundation built. You've got to care for not only yourself, but those that you love, because as Leslie talked about, this is coming off, right? It's coming off either at the 4-month, 4-year, or 40-year mark. You've got to understand what personal and professional success looks like to you and your loved ones. And that should really drive how you sustain, how you build your community, and how you make personal decisions. So they have to have, I would say, harmony, because balance is an overused word as well, too. It's got to be harmony and great communication in the actual family unit, because if you do that well, that's going to turn into great results for the mission and for your work family. If they understand that in parallel, I think they're going to be very successful, both as an individual spouse pursuing their own goals, and then as a successful mission expeditionary unit moving forward in their own careers.
I love that. And thank you so much for explaining and making it more clear to us what that means, the service before self. Because sometimes we think that, if you're going to work so hard, if you want to be so great at what you're doing because the next promotion, and sometimes the spouse takes the step back because we feel that we got to give you the space, that time for you in order to keep moving forward. So I love the fact that we're talking about the perception of what that means in communication at home, so that, I mean, if there's a healthy relationship, there's going to be a healthy relationship at work, and it will be successful no matter what you do. So thank you, sir, for clarifying that. Now I'm going to ask you, Chief, the same thing. What will you tell us?
Yeah, there's a lot to this. I would actually continue to the thought that my wingman Colonel Gennaro shares is that idea of service, and it should never become separate of the family. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll leave it all, we'll pour it all on the field at work, and we'll come home in an empty tank. And I think it is really, really essential. You know, I've shared this story with people. You know, I'll go and talk to our BMT trainees, and a lot of times I'll get the question about, hey, what do I need to do to become a Chief Master Sergeant? I'll get that question a lot. What I think about, though, I would say towards the end of my career, and that will be a family decision from this point forward on when that will end, right? But what I try to communicate to them is understand that your time in uniform is temporary, but your time with your loved ones should not be, right? And what I mean by that is to be present whenever you're there. You'll never get the volume of time that maybe you want. It won't be an even work, 8 hours of work, 8 hours at home, 8 hours sleep, and that tends to not be the military schedule. But we owe it to our loved ones, the ones we serve for, to realize that, you know, being a spouse, being a parent is going to require its own dedicated energy and effort. And I think that's where the communication and expectations continually is so important. My wife has given me so much grace through the years because I should have been a better husband at moments. I didn't know that necessarily at the time, but we've been able to work through things. I would also say go into counseling sessions, sharing with older spouses the challenges you have. It's really, really important to not let your pride kind of get in the way of the reality of what you're experiencing, and to just be open about that as much as possible. It is complex in a way, though, and it's hard because you want to be the best airman you can be at work, and in a way, because so when I was my first deployment, I had a chief. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, on your uniform," he said, "What side of your uniform is your family name on?" And I immediately said, "Well, it says Blazer on the side, so my right side." He said, "No, it's both sides, right?" And I think it's true, right? You do serve two families simultaneously, but you only got one heart. And whenever we take off this uniform for the final time, maybe that's after one enlistment, maybe that's after 3 decades, we owe it to that family that's in the front row that we've been for them just as much to the maximum extent possible we can be. So I just encourage young families early on to make that a priority as much as they possibly can.
That's very nice. So, man, all of you are like so full of wisdom and wonderful things to say. Probably everybody's so emotional on the other side of the room. That is so awesome. You know, it's very true. When my husband took his first command, he's security forces, he's a cop. And it was a little bit challenging because he was a cop, and I mean, everything that happened on base, he was notified, he was always gone, and it was a little crazy. And I was a key spouse trying to help the families. And some of the spouses will tell me that, you know, they feel this sometimes because they're married to a high leader, the high rank officer or enlisted. They feel that everything is good to go. The spouses know it all, and there's no challenges. And something that I would share with them all the time is that the challenges are there. You just learn how to manage those challenges a little bit better because you get to learn from them, and then you rely on those when you need support. And my husband and I will be very open with our defenders and their families, and we will sit down with them and talk about, hey, we had our challenges, and we got help, and we utilize this resource and the other one, and it's always about communicating. So, Chief, thank you so much for talking about being open and express when there's a need, and be able to say, hey, maybe we're not doing very well here. What can we do? Probably someone needs to help us. And that's another reason why we're here, because there's so many resources and so much support that you got to take advantage of it. You're not alone on this, and it's okay to ask for help. That doesn't mean you're failing. That only means that you're strong because you're asking for support. And with that, I have another another question, and probably this one is going to be a simple one, and it's going to be for all of you. Every day we wake up and we think about one thing that keeps us motivated, regardless if it is to continue your military career, if it's your family, your kids, your spouse, being a military spouse. Would you mind sharing with everybody what is it that when you wake up keeps you moving forward?
I will say for me, it's my faith. So my faith first, family. I mean, Jason will say this in any change of command that he does or any promotion ceremony that he does, faith, family, flag. So I probably am speaking for both of us when I say our faith is first, our family, and then our flag. And when I say family, I mean big family. I don't just mean our immediate family, I mean our Air Force family.
Yeah.
So those are the three things I would say that drive me and probably you too, right?
That's right. You nailed it.
I love how you put that, right? I think for our family, serving others is important to us. But I know there's times where we've had to step back from helping even our extended family to focus on internally our own family. But I love that our focus and concentration is through God and our military family and the connections that we've made over, whether it's a year in one assignment or it's 20 years. I've had friends for a season, I've had friends for life, and they've all mattered to different extents in my life. So I'm grateful for it all.
Yeah, I think to add on to Jen's comments, the cool thing about our that I would tell young spouses is the longer you stay in, the smaller the Air Force family gets.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just something tremendously powerful. I mean, we joke about the things where we'll come across people at the commissary and we haven't seen each other in 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like these flashbacks come back and you hear about how you've been doing. You also get maybe 3 assignments later that they were infants and now they're in middle school together. I mean, there's just these intersections of lives that is just truly a beautiful thing. But I think for us, it's just as you said, it's the opportunity to make someone's life better, to get a win for someone else, to serve someone else, to have any role in them moving forward. It is in a way, it's addictive. I mean, it is like to see a smile on someone else's face when potentially they've lost hope. It is a phenomenal opportunity in the business of leadership to be able to do that. And I think it's a pretty big motivator, no matter how hard the day may get.
And Bernice, so really this command team, that's what makes them so amazing at what they do, is because they don't sit there as the command chief and spouse. They sit there as Stefan and Jen telling you their story, right? And I think that's what's able to connect them so well with airmen of all ranks and all ages. And I think that's why Chief and I really relish, this is some of our favorite opportunities to give back, because we can come from a position of not having everything figured out, right? That's the beauty of giving back. So to win hearts and transform lives, especially when you hit the 20-year mark, the government's getting us for pennies on the dollar at this point, right? So your why to serve, it does evolve and change over time. And so when he and I get to look in the faces of these young men and women from all over planet Earth that are now sitting here as common bonded airmen, right, and what their experience is about, to go, I love sharing with them that here's what we got wrong during our career. Here's how I was a terrible husband. Here's how I lost some dad points along the way. And to really close the gap between sympathy and empathy. I mean, that's a really powerful thing. And you never know the power of a 5-minute conversation with somebody. So that's in short what I'll tell you what drives me to get out of bed and serve every day.
I love that.
I think it's important to remember that regardless of rank, life happens to everyone, right? So, and I think that's one of the things, like Colonel Jones had mentioned, that this team really is a family. So whether you're a command chief or you're an A1C or you're a commander, life happens, right? Kids get sick, accidents happen, right? Life happens. And rank should have nothing to do with helping make those situations easier for families. So that's what we're here for.
That's great. You know, and the reason why I asked that question, it was a little tricky question, but I knew that all of you would say the keywords that everybody needed to hear, which is we are a family, how you are always taking care of others, and how throughout the time we build relationships with those people that live around us, or those that were there for us, and our kids go to school and then they PCS to different places and then they come back together and then they're in middle school and then back in high school, because they gotta see that picture as well. A lot of the times we hear so many stories from new spouses that it's once again what they get to see on TV or what they heard from someone else. But it's nothing like experiencing themselves that this is what our community is all about. This is a real sense of community. And this is what they have to experience. Now they gotta allow us to get close to them and be able to welcome them into this community. But that's the beauty of it. That not only we have you guys as spouses talking about this, but we have your husbands, the military leaders, talking to us about the same time. Their drive every morning is not just taking care of the mission and protecting this country, but making sure that those families are taken care of, making sure everybody is going to be okay at the end of the day. So I really appreciate that from all of you for that open conversation and telling us exactly what it is, because others need to hear that this is our real community and this is what we do for each other. And now I think, you know, we've been having some great comments on Facebook. Some people saying that they love the 37th and they learned so much. I mean, there's some great comments. So you're going to have to go back to the Facebook Live so you can read the comments. But one of the main reasons we also wanted to do this is because we have a lot of questions from someone that has a loved one on BMT. And they usually have the same questions. And the number one question is, when am I going to hear from my spouse? They leave home and they don't know when they're going to hear from them. Sometimes they're telling us, I haven't heard from my spouse in 4 days. And it's like, okay, we'll be a little bit more patient and it can take a little bit more time. But is there a timeline, or it all depends on what's going on?
Yes. So we have. I would tell you is the answer to that question would certainly depend on what month we've been in during COVID, right? So we have certainly changed our prior practices prior to pre-COVID. There were not a lot of phone calls that were taking place. They were very limited. But one of the first things and the priorities that are set out for the wing is the safety, the security, and the sanity of every live that we're entrusted with while they're here at basic military training. So what we've done currently, just so everybody understands, currently is on Sundays they should get a 15-minute phone call. So they're giving their cell phones back. They can't access anything social media, they can do that, but they can make phone calls to let everybody know that they're okay, or to also share information on things that have changed while here at BMT. I would also just encourage everybody, because it's 15 minutes is still not a lot of time. So I know they may not get to everybody that they may want to be able to contact, but I encourage everybody to go to the basic military training website. We try to put information on there to let everybody know what is going on, what to expect, and really right after BMT. So in the 7.5 weeks that is right now, right after BMT, they are giving their cell phones back, and they should be able to contact them consistently while they're in technical training.
Wonderful. You know, this is a time when military spouses learn how to communicate in bullet points, right? Make a list of the main things that you want to talk to your spouse for 15 minutes. And then you're going to be like, oh, this, and this. And then, yep, I was able to address everything in 15 minutes. So that's what we mean about learning how to communicate in bullet points. Sometimes that's how you learn how to communicate. Another of the questions that we received is if they are going to be able to join their spouse for tech school.
So, as Chief talked about during COVID conditions, raise your hand if you signed up for a global pandemic, right? So these are the leadership challenges that we wrestle with. And trust me, we don't take these decisions lightly, but we ultimately have to protect both the member and the family member. And sometimes to do that, you've got to make those hard decisions about keeping them separate, and sometimes for a long period of time. So as we wrestle through what right looks like next, understanding we might be in this wave for 6 months to 12 months, these are hard discussions to have. But the short answer is right now, that the way we're structured here, they all go through their basic military training, and then they'll go through their respective tech school, all in varied lengths. Some of the special warfare guys are in, various tech schools for up to 2 years. So understand, though, from the 37 Training Wing, roughly 25% of the basic military training graduates will stay under the 37 Training Wing umbrella in some form or fashion. It's everything from flight attendants to security forces defenders. So right now, the stance is that in a tech school, meaning a 3-level entry, their focus is on learning their job, being proficient, being a tactical weapons handler, whatever that looks like to them in their career field, and then they are limited to on-base only. So unfortunately, they will go through, potentially, they will go through all of BMT and all of their tech training, and they will not be able to physically see their family member as of right now. So we're trying to work some things on the back end for them to take leave, for them to have those kind of visitation rights. But right now, as you understand, Bernice, the hard call, but the right call is to keep them safe, especially you see what's happening across San Antonio and the community spread here. It's a very real threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just because, we have such a broad breadth of Air Force specialties, many of those schools are anywhere from a couple months in length to a couple of years in length. So in those cases to where we have things that are about 6 months or longer, those individuals, what we call a PCS, or you get permanent orders to go to training. And in that situation, the spouses, the children, the dependents are able to join them in those locations. But that tends to be more the exception. Majority of people, just as Colonel General said, will not qualify for that. And they will then be reunited at their first duty station following technical training.
Wonderful. That's awesome. That's great information, even for us to kind of know what is going on. And that, Colonel, like you said, the situation in San Antonio is escalating and it's very unpredictable right now. So, we don't know when it's going to change or there's going to be any more changes anytime soon. But if you guys have any more questions, our mentees out there, if you have more questions about this, let us know and we'll try to get the information for you. Before we leave, time is running out and it's crazy because these conversations are so great, but I'm not going to take too much out of your evening, but I just want to leave you with your final thought. We have talked about sense of community. We have talked about the basic knowledge of basic training. We've talked about leadership. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want our audience and the new spouses to know about?
So I'll jump in and just again, thank you. Thank Casey. Thank the team out there. This is your time too, and this is a precious opportunity for you. And this is not something you have to do. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the heart that you have to serve the airmen and the family members. So what I'll tell you is, whether you're a brand new spouse or airman, or you're the chief of staff for the Air Force, you really want 2 things each and every day. You want to be valued and you want to add value. So that's my message to everyone watching right now, is that we sometimes overcomplicate these discussions. But again, whether you're on Wall Street or whether you're down here guarding the defense of the nation, those, I think, are critical things from a commander, the heart of the key spouse, the heart of the first sergeant, is to recognize that very core dialogue that you have with your members. That you want to make sure when they come into your workplace, your work center, that they are valued, they are treated fairly with dignity and respect, and they want to feel like they're adding value to that fight as well, too. So I think fundamentally those 2 things are extremely important.
Wonderful.
And I would add, Berenice, that I think spouses are going to be surprised that people are actually going to thank them for their service. And I would say that's rightfully so, because as a military spouse, you represent that 1% or less than 1% that serves this country alongside your military members. So I think you accept that gratitude because you're also serving. This is not just your military member that's giving back, it's you. And then the second thing, which we did touch on, is that this idea that 2 are better than 1. Like, you do not have to go through this alone. So I would just really encourage you to step outside maybe your comfort zone and find at least one other spouse, military spouse, to walk through this journey with you, so that you have someone that you can share celebrations with as far as promotions and good news assignments, but that you can also share disappointments with, because you'll have those too. So to have someone to walk through that with will make this life so much better.
I love that. Thank you, Leslie.
I always thought that when I reached out for help, whether it was for the Key Spouse program and looking for something, or questions for the first sergeant, I always thought it then obligated me to be a part of something, to volunteer for something. And I want spouses to know that's not how it is. We want to be there to help connect you to things. There's no obligation, no strings attached. I know Leslie and I are here for any of our spouses. Reach us on Facebook, email us, we're here. But I know that we have a very large group of spouses like yourselves that have great programs trying to connect everyone. Reach out. Like Leslie said, step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Say hi. I think you'd be surprised.
That's awesome.
For your service, because it does matter.
Yeah, and then the thing that I absolutely want to share is, so realizing that you're thinking about your loved one as they're here at basic military training. There's no doubt about that. And realize they're absolutely thinking about you every day when they wake up. They're trying to become an airman for you, right? Everybody who comes to basic military training, they come for a reason, and they're driven to serve. And I can tell you, your love and support in this time is just as crucial as ever. And what I can also encourage you is that the men and women who are brought here by the Air Force, so the best of the best are brought from across the Air Force to build airmen. First off, I just want to thank our team of military training instructors for what they do. You see that hardened exterior, but I'm telling you, there's a giant heart that's in the middle of that, and they serve along their families. They sacrifice, them and their families sacrifice a lot for this vital mission. But I just want you to know that they're absolutely well taken care of. And what I've seen with my own eyes in COVID is I think we're actually building better airmen. I think they know what it's like to be part of the Air Force family early on. They bond as a unit. They're going through this together. And what I would say is you can be really, really proud of your airmen when you get to unite with them, because we certainly are.
That's wonderful. You know, and my final thought will be just addressing exactly what happened tonight, which was what we knew was going to be, that it was going to be a great conversation. Colonel Generis and Chief, thank you so much for being such amazing leaders, for taking care of the airmen and their families, and continuing the mission. I know that the wing is a group of a lot of you, instructors and spouses, and it's a lot of people that you guys are representing tonight. But the leadership in the way that you're talking about your airmen and their families only shows us the strong leadership that you have in how those families at Lackland and at your wing are taken care of. So thank you so much. Our Air Force is better because of leaders like you. So thank you so much for everything that you do and for being here tonight. And Leslie and Jennifer, I mean, it is because of spouses like you guys, and including the gentleman, we are doing what we're doing because of the opportunity that you guys gave us, because of believing in our mission, because you were advocating for more support for spouses. So thank you so much for the empowerment. Thank you so much for the support that you provide to military families, not just at Lackland, but the support that you gave MSAN is now passing Lackland Air Force Base. Now the impact that you're making is beyond Lackland, it's Air Forces all over the world. So sometimes when you just believe in someone or believe in someone's mission, you are already changing the lives of many others behind that mission. So thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I mean, I could continue going and going, but like I said, I don't want to take more time tonight. But once again, thank you so much for everything. Leslie and Colonel Generis, best of luck in DC. I hope I get to see you guys when I go to DC. And thank you for making time for being with us. I know that you might be so busy right now getting ready to PCS. Thank you so much for making time for us.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, thank you, Bernice, for having us.
Thank you. And Jennifer and Chief, I'm pretty sure that I will get to see you hopefully once things are not so crazy, but I would love to connect once we are able to socialize one more time. Thank you so much.
We'll be ready and happy to do it, no matter when it's at.
There you go. Thank you, everybody, and to the audience. Thank you so much for being with us. This is just a little taste of what the Air Force family is all about. This is just a little taste of what our leadership is all about. So please don't feel that you're alone in this, because you're not. There are resources, there are advocates, there's leadership, there's a big group behind you. We have your back. If you need support or any mentorship, let us know. We are here for you. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care and be safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.